Leadership should be led by facts, and I'm sure we all agree here. However, often leaders act, let's say, beyond facts, and that is the most polite way I can put it. And we now have to talk about why leadership is not a matter of opinion, but a matter of knowing facts and delivering excellence. It's about Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon, who has been on this podcast for quite a high frequency, for quite a while. He has been on here, I think 6, 7, 8 times with positive or negative examples. Unfortunately, in the recent past, mostly negatives. He is a disputable CEO of Goldman Sachs, and the board now said that there will be a re-evaluation of David Solomon's practices. That's an unexpected turn of events. And the reason is the talent exodus. Many talents left Goldman Sachs, and now they're looking into the practices of the CEO and into the CEO's practices and think, what is going on? There's, by the way, an ongoing argument between partners. So safe to say it's not going too well at the moment, except for the stock exchange. Probably the stock exchange price is pretty reasonable. However, we have to look into, is leadership, and especially the case of David Solomon, something which causes an ongoing problem? And as a matter of fact, it does. You often see people referring to so-called rock star CEOs. That CEO has done this, that CEO has done that, and then they blindly follow what they say. And that often does not lead to the best results. And the criticism against David Solomon has been pretty obvious and also pretty public. When a former CEO, and in this case, Lloyd Blankfein, that's the former CEO, and he publicly said that David Solomon never understood the difference between partnership and dictatorship. That is a crass statement of criticism against a CEO of a stock exchange listed company, especially when you are the former CEO of exactly that company. Lloyd Blankfein also said that Goldman always had a camaraderie, which David Solomon never understood. And we will look into this camaraderie aspect in a minute. There are numerous other moments of criticism against Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon. One is his DJ business. He's an international DJ. And yes, it is possible to be an internationally successful DJ at the age of 61, as you see here. His frequent usage of the corporate jet, obviously that is problematic for many reasons, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. And his frequent trips to the Bahamas also do not go down well with the partners, with the bank's partners. We now have to look into what are these issues, but one of the main issues is that Goldman Sachs now openly had to admit, even if they would fire David Solomon, it is pretty hard to figure out who would be next in line because many talents have left the bank. There are not many successors available. So if you have only a very limited amount of successors, the question is, are you able to actually move someone when there is no one next in line, or you have to look for an external person, which most likely will be way more expensive? Of course, there are also some people who say, no, there is no problem, especially supporters of David Solomon say, David Solomon supporters often say, it's only style over substance, there is no real issue. However, when you look into insiders and what they said to the press, there are countless problematic statements. One of them is that his mistakes would be no problem and others would be forgiven. However, and I quote word by word, he has ruffled feathers and personal mistakes could cost him his job. We will talk about that in a minute. David Solomon, however, is one of the best stories Goldman Sachs ever had to offer. David Solomon was rejected by the bank, applied again, and then worked his way up. He often talks about that. It is the perfect example of how important business storytelling is. So when you see the power of business storytelling, you can get away with a lot, as we see here, even with a CEO who in countless occasions ignored obvious facts. And by the way, a rock star CEO story is not enough to run a business. I just give you an example. When you look at Elon Musk, who has been a widely celebrated CEO for a very long time, first, because of his birthright privileges, which have never been mentioned before the critics came up, he grew up very privileged, which gave him the chance to first start with multiple bankruptcies and still what he says bounce back. No, he didn't bounce back. There was just enough money in the back. So this Elon Musk now, just last weekend, and by the way, I'm sitting here in New York City. It's Pride weekend. I'm recording this podcast before the parade begins. And what I say now, I honestly had to quadruple check if this is true. And I found the tweet. Elon Musk tweeted that, of course, your account will be banned or suspended on Twitter if you practice hate speech. That is reasonable. And in the same tweet, he says the words cis and cisgender are now considered a slur. This man obviously lost the plot quite a while ago. Cis and cisgender are scientific terms. If you say, no one would say that, for example, telephone or IT or copper would be a slur, because copper you use in steel production or any different other context where you need copper at the moment. It's a scarce resource. And there are simply words that are used commonly because they are common words. Declaring them a slur is nothing else than censorship. And Mr. Musk, who always stood up for free speech, obviously now became Mr. Censorship. Very sad. However, not very surprising. Twitter's not doing well. Financially, it's going down the drain. So you now see that just listening to a rock star CEO might be a very short-term thinking. And now we will look into David Solomon and where he has ignored facts. And there are certain aspects which you can also check in your organization. And here is the list. So let's start. So first, David Solomon ignored facts when he said he wants people to work in the office, not from home. So he called them back to the office. And quite a number of CEOs did that back in the recent weeks. And unfortunately, some people in mid-sized business or even small businesses follow that based on some CEO of a stock exchange listed company saying that. This is ignoring facts. Look into science. Professor Cedal Neely, Harvard University, wrote the book Remote Work Revolution. And by the way, I am here in New York City. 1/3 of America's workforce is working partially or fully from home. Some of them have been laid off 2 or 3 times because of not returning to the office. They openly said, I am not returning, and simply got a new job like this, very quickly, very easily. So if you think that work from home does not work, it simply says that you as a leader fail to deliver on the promise. It is very important that work from home and work from anywhere works, if you like it or not. And by the way, look at the background. A bank as Goldman Sachs, they are massively invested into the real estate industry that rents out offices. Of course, they want people to work in the office. It is about their own value, their own interest. So that was step number 1. By the way, many talents say, if a CEO does not stick to facts, I prefer to work somewhere else. Aspect number 2, network's good. However, insider deals, closed rooms, closed clubs are not good. When I hear words like camaraderie, and then someone has no substance, no real idea to it, there is some sort of camaraderie. It basically means people like each other and they decide if they like you or not. And then you push each other and help each other into different positions. That is not good for development of an organization. And ignoring that fact, not hiring by skill, but by contact, simply means that you openly do a wrong hire. You know that you do the wrong hire, and you openly accept ignoring the facts of having better talent available. Aspect number 3 is focus. When you are a top leader of an international bank, stock exchange listed, as David Solomon is, of course you can DJ left, right, and center. However, when you're an international DJ, that's a time-consuming venture. You have to fly there, you have to fly back, and all that while you are a bank, while you work at a bank, that is often the crosshair of criticism. If you really want to be an international DJ, be an international DJ. There's no problem with that. And by the way, if you say DJing is harm to a reputation, no, it's not. It's a reasonable job. It's an honorable job. If you think that DJing is not a proper job, the picture of the world you have simply is an up-to-date one. However, you have to see that when you are the CEO of Goldman Sachs CEO, and you make millions and millions and millions in money, and probably rightly so, the bank can expect one thing from you. It can expect that you focus on the job. And of course, as soon as any criticism shows up, like the talent exodus right now, people will say, well, you better connect, you better connect with some talent. And by the way, you better focus on your job rather than DJing. So you offer them a target that you do not want them to offer. So that's aspect number 3. Aspect number 4, style over substance. That's something you can prove. Please check. And by the way, not by the boardroom, I'll tell you in a minute why. Please check, has David Solomon made the bank a better bank? Is it profitable? What about the stock exchange price? And some of these facts are looking pretty good. However, that's the picture we have right now. We don't know where we stand in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And with a talent exodus, it most likely will not become better. And it is a massive problem. And by the way, you have to take a neutral look, not by the boardroom, because many people in the boardroom want to sit on David Solomon's seat. So they will always give him a negative evaluation because they say, I want your job. The next aspect is sustainability. When Goldman Sachs, as many other ventures, including internationally listed banks, stock exchange listed banks, you all want to be green and sustainable. Flying private jet is simply unnecessary in nearly any occurrence. There are very few examples where you need to fly private jets. So let's say there's an international meltdown of some business or an international occurrence, and suddenly it's 1 a.m. in the morning and you need to be somewhere at 6, and there is no plane going because most cities now do not allow planes to fly in or out between midnight and 6 a.m. Then you need a private jet if it is really urgent and business critical. That is a very rare occasion. Flying business or first class, it's safe, it gets you anywhere, and that's available for Goldman Sachs' CEO as much as it is available for absolutely anyone else. So private jets are a rare occurrence. In most cases, it's unnecessary. And also, if you cut bonuses and salaries and you have to tell people that they should cut costs, cutting the cost for the private jet is first in line, not last in line. Thanks for listening. So the next thing after sustainability is time. When you say you want that people work hard, it doesn't go down well when you spend your time on the Bahamas. And by the way, you could now say he's working from the Bahamas, but sorry, that's not working because David Solomon does not like when people do not work in the office. He says work from the office, so you cannot sit in the Bahamas and say I work from there, because that would not even be work from home, that's work from anywhere. So very important. When you want to spend time in the Bahamas, do so, however, as an internationally listed CEO, not the best choice. Again, he ignored the facts. If you had said working from anywhere is perfectly fine, you can spend as much time on the Bahamas in the Bahamas as you like. Leadership practice, and that is very important. You need to look into facts. There can never be an advantage or disadvantage based on personal problems, issues, or just because you don't like someone. This fact of ruffled some feathers means nothing else than we prefer personal opinion about the facts and skills of people. And of course, there are more aspects than just knowing stuff when you apply for a job. However, if you from the very beginning ignore facts and evidence, that will pave the way for having an unsustainable culture in your bank. Leadership, of course, has emotional components. It has the component of emotions. You need many different soft skills. However, you also need facts. Facts, science, proof, and evidence. This is what makes it that complicated. We now saw countless aspects of David Solomon ignoring the facts, and we also talk about how to do it better. And now you can go into your organization and check how you are doing. Very important here is emotional components. Emotional leadership are important. I agree. Soft skills, very necessary. Absolutely, fully agree. However, your decisions are based on facts. This is, by the way, why data science is in such high demand, and people like when you can base your decision on facts. And by the way, when you see the emotional components, the soft skills, and the facts, proof, evidence, science of leadership, if ever anyone tells you leadership is easy, you can probably derive one aspect from that. This person has never been a leader. Now it's your call to look into your organization and make it a better one. And of course, there's more. I always highly recommend to do 3 steps. So first, I published about this. Every week I receive emails of people saying, we found articles, but there's a paywall. I agree. There often is a paywall. That's how magazines make money. They make you pay. But first, when you have any questions, anything you'd like to discuss with me, you can always email me at no charge, nb@nb-networks.com, and then we take it from there. Just drop me an email. If you have something very specific, you need someone for a training session, you need a speaker for your conference, you need coaching, whatever, I'm available for that. But if you just like to talk about what kind of questions you have, just drop me an email, nb@nb-networks.com, and then we take it from there. Step number 2. Often people ask me, can I talk to you live via Zoom or whatever? Absolutely. We have a so-called leadership Q&A, and we have it nearly every month. It is announced via the leadership letter When you go to expert.nb-networks.com, sign up with your email address there, then you're on the list. Every Wednesday morning, you receive an email where you first have free access to anything I published. Second, you also see when the next leadership Q&A is available in English and German language. And third, it's 100% content at free guarantee in that leadership letter. So thank you very much for signing up. And the third aspect is the most important one. Apply what you heard in this podcast, because only when you apply what you heard, you will see the positive change that you want to have in your organization. I wish you all the best applying this in your organization. Thank you very much again for spending the time with the podcast. We again had amazing ranking results. So thank you very much for that as well. And now I wish you all the best applying these aspects that you heard in your organization. If you need some help, I'm always here to help. Just contact me and then we take it from there. And at the end of this podcast, there are only two things, not one, but this time two things I tell you for this week. First, happy Pride from New York City. And second, as you know, thank you very much for your time.